in the house, Liz Goll Lerner. She is a life coach, psychotherapist, author, and an artist. She is an expert in communication, personal transformation, relationships, and divorce wellness. She guides individuals to find their spark of inspiration, hone in on their power, and the full expression of their personal and professional dreams. She's going to be talking to us about the ins and outs of being inspired. And yes, Deb just gave her, didn't you know, away. She just moved her whole life to a whole new state just a few days ago. And there's her book. Her music she's listening to right now is the Talking Heads. And she has a gift for all of us, a PDF on inspired communication, including a powerful video on, I can't see, sorry, and a powerful video because I don't know what that last
There we
word
go.
says.
Ins and
Sorry.
outs of communication, personal and business.
Okay, thank you. And then her gift to one special person, if you get the answer right, is going to be um with Liz and inspire. I believe it's an hour, 1 hour with Liz to get inspired. So be listening because I might make a hard question. I don't know. I might
Mm.
make an easy question. No, okay, easy.
Ooh.
But welcome, Liz. Let's hear some inspiration from you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Melissa. What a day. My God, I feel like I have been through the kaleidoscope of inspiration, every facet, every idea, because we all really see inspiration differently, it seems, and yet the same. So today I want to talk about, well, I will be talking about the experience of being inspired. So the ins and outs, so to speak. And so I want to begin with some questions. So we're going to take a breath and we're going to like just think and it'll be, I'm going to go a little quickly, but just take a moment as I go through the questions to feel into these experiential questions and know that the answers are both general and personal, right? So, number one is, how does inspiration feel? And obviously, feel to you. Two, what is or can you identify the switch that gets turned on that you call being inspired? How do we sustain inspiration? When is it a call to action? When is it foundational, a confirmation of who we are and what we're doing? And when does it cross over from being a call to action to a calling? And the best one, what gets in the way? So I'm not going to leave you hanging. These are indeed personal answers, but there are collective answers that do help us take steps along the inspirational journey. Because inspiration is more than a moment. If we follow the feeling, it becomes a journey of varied lengths. So we begin at the beginning. So, number one, how does inspiration feel? Well, for me, the first tug feels like a burst of joy in my heart or an aha moment. Many of my coaching clients describe it as a thought connected to a feeling of urgency or a specific feeling in the body, right? Always an opening, never a restriction. So that's a really important distinction. So then what about recognizing what I'm calling the switch, the switch that turns on? When we pay attention, we activate the switch. When we notice that thought, that feeling, which is typically an innovation of some kind or a go moment or true attention, before we do what? Veto. Before we veto, the switch is on. So, how do we sustain it? So, I'm going to get to that shortly, but the clue here is that it definitely has to do with the potential of vetoing or not vetoing, right? So, number four, how do we know when it's a call to action? Typically, there is some call to action involved, but so much depends on what the inspiration is and why it is. So, this leads to integrating our intuition. So many of us have talked about that today. People talk about being inspired to call someone, and it's the exact right moment, or being inspired to walk down a particular street and find the perfect store, the perfect tree, the unexpected person that creates their next step, or is the last piece in an unsolved puzzle. So I'd say that there are small and big calls to action. So I'm going to call these things I just listed the little C's, the smaller calls to action. But those little C's can have a tremendous impact, right? They're not little because they're not meaningful, but often they're the ones that actually have their own closed loop, right? They may lead to something entirely different, but they're their own event, their own experience. So that leads us to what or when does an inspiration, when does that call to action pivot to a calling? So a life direction pivot, a cause that affects a significant part of one's life or a complete change in a business or a relationship. For many, this switch stays on. So that's different, right? It won't let go. The action taken is the beginning, not an end unto itself. So that's why I'm talking about little C's and big C's. So how do we know? How do we know? How do we navigate the big C? How do we understand it? So for a lot of people, it's the whisper, the voice inside that connects the physical opening of possibility or the feeling of urgency. The discomfort when the next action isn't taken. Again, the intersection of guidance and inspiration, the knowing of the self that is larger than our everyday self, our everyday routine life self is the key here, right? The bigger self, or noticing it. And to make things really difficult is that the calling often makes no sense. So here's where we get to the outs. What gets in the way? Often inspiration comes when it's time for a change or when something we're doing in our lives needs to move to the next level. Even more confounding is when it's really already happening, but our words about what we do are smaller than what's the actual reality of the moment. And so we're perceiving ourselves incorrectly and potentially sharing an old version of ourselves or our work. And that's really uncomfortable. So typically, that's a kind of discomfort where it's a push. It's not a restrictive discomfort. It's not a shutdown, but I'm not in my right skin or something isn't happening. And so then the self-talk becomes really critical. And sometimes that begins the negative frame. So when we're talking about the ins and the outs, we're into the outs, right? So what is that self-talk? This is crazy. I could never achieve that. I've already built a business. This is my business. It's not the right time, not the right collaboration, not the right place. You get to fill in the blank, right? Or On the other side of things, I'm not ready or I'm comfortable just the way things are. I don't want to rock the boat. So many versions show up. Why? Because even when we're inspired, the status quo is comfortable. And even when we want change and forward movement, parts of ourselves try to keep us safe and create an impasse. So, what's the answer? In my experience, and we will each have our own, of course, being our own detective and not taking those inner doubts as truth is the most important. Weigh the thoughts, but make sure there's a head heart connection and use the wisdom of the heart because that is the key to good detective work. If it's a calling, it won't let go. It'll eventually show up in your life. It'll eventually work its way into your life, into all of our lives, right? The key is to following inspiration or connecting, one, while being aware of it, connecting to the feeling, feeling the switch turn on, nurturing the spark, listening to whether it's a big or small C, and allowing intuition to have a voice. And finally, even when the doubt shows up in all of that process, you've got to trust the full body yes, right? So I'm going to give you a couple of examples before I run out of time. And one is a gentleman that I work with as a business coach, and he was feeling this discomfort. Like he had everything was going his way, everything was down. He was feeling this discomfort and communicating from from his vision of his smaller self, of not the self, not the business persona he had already achieved, not the power he was actually activated in. And through the work we did, when he was able to understand what he was actually doing, he was able to accept a promotion that completely freed him to be the creative entity that he is. So, yay, right? Let's hear it for inspiration, vision, and that discomfort when you're actually being your smaller self, when you've already achieved your bigger self, right? Another example is really about me. We've already talked about how I've just moved myself to a completely different state. So state of the United States and apparently state of being. So for those of you who've heard my a little of this story, I'm going to repeat myself, but this has been a journey of kind of maximum proportion of of the search. And there was something in me that knew it was time to move. And I thought it was just going to be a regular move. You know, if you know you're moving and you want to move, then you think, okay, cool. I've got it all together. Like, I'm going to go and I'm just going to go find this place and it's going to be great. And so I looked at some places to live and I found a place that as soon as I opened the door, my heart opened. I was in joy. The energy was great. There was beautiful light. And there was everything else possible wrong with the apartment. So, regular dinner dishes don't fit on the kitchen shelves. Um, there's limited closet space. I had my checklist, you know, and I'm like looking at my checklist and it's not working. And I cannot tell you guys, I looked at, and women, I must have looked at 30 apartments to try not to live in the place that I have chosen to live because I saw that there were considerations here that were not the best. However, what I learned was that there was inspiration in whatever was going on with this move that led me to this place. And every time I tried to take myself away from it, I found myself back. So, what I want to share about that, that's the really important piece about inspiration and how we feel it, how we see it, is that we have to trust it, is that we don't always know. That's why the head and heart connection is so important. We don't always know. And yes, there are problems that get dealt with, that get dealt with. And I'm getting choked up. And there is no question that this is the right place. But who knew, right? I fought it tooth and nail. But here I am, and there's so much joy in that decision. So it's about how can I be creative? What am I letting go of? What is minimalist living? How do I trust what I'm guided to do, even when I don't understand it? So inspiration comes in many, many forms. It's been an amazing teacher. So thank you so much for listening. I hope these thoughts were helpful.
They were very helpful. I enjoyed almost the workshop experience. No, no, seriously, I was like, what makes I wrote down, I feel light. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it was nice to take that information in and digest it. And I loved the workshop feel. And congratulations in your new home.
Thank
I
you.
was watching the journey, and sometimes it's not perfect, but it's perfect,
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
love how you talked about your body tells you the answers so many times. Your body tells you the answer. I'm a big supporter of go get new plates. I think that's fantastic, and I can't wait to go there. Oh my goodness, it's so much fun. I can't wait to see you. And um, you have so much great. I mean, if it's about communication, Liz is your conversation. Like
Mhm.
really, it's so interesting how communication can change everything from sales to getting along with your mother better, right? I mean, seriously,
And may I say, it's the self-talk
yeah, yeah,
that really is the key to then being able to finesse all of those things
yeah,
and being present, truly present in the moment.
truly.
The when.